welcome to the third sessions. So in these sessions, we mainly talking about how to interacting with the chain. So the last sessions we demonstrate like how to use SwiftUI actually building these NFTs. And so in this time, actually, we were using the existing project, which as you can see, most of the UI was ready. Yeah, I'm assuming that you enjoy using SwiftUI. And yeah, so in here we mainly not gonna talking much about like how to build the UI part. We're gonna more talking about how to interacting with the chain. Okay, so going back to our app logic itself. So in here we know once we land on the page, we have the connect buttons. So which one that's representing if the user has been logged in or not. If the user haven't been logged in, we will landing on this page. If the user have logged in, we're gonna directly into our home page. So in this welcome page, basically this connect button will trigger the discoveries like similar what you have on the web. And once you click on that, there are several wallet options in there, and also do the initializations as well. But before we jump into that, we will guide you through. So first of all, you might have to go to the importing SDK. So in our GitHub, there was one SDK we're using was Outblock / the FCL Swift. And for that one, the latest one was 0.1.0. And how to importing this one in our Xcode. So when you click on this Master Makers project, and when you click on the project on the above, and then here you have the package dependencies. So basically you type on the add buttons, and then paste on the FCLs. Swift URLs in GitHub. They're gonna recognize that for you, and basically click on the add packages, and then that's gonna be taking the dependencies, and make sure that in your target in your apps, this framework side you can see the FCLs into it. And once you see that, and then we can okay, yeah, so this welcome page, as you can see right now, is very simple. You have the logo and one button for that. So right now we don't have any action for these buttons. You can see there are to do in here. And so okay, so once we import in the FCL in, like how to use that, and to call out on that, we called FCLs open discovery, and basically that's what I'm gonna show the discovery for you. And before we doing that, actually we need to configure a bit about the FCL itself, similar to what you have for the FCL JS. You have to do a certain sort of configurations. And so in here in the FCL, when you do the config, first of all, you have like metadata to convert into. The metadata will give you the first you have to provide the app names, descriptions, icons, and the URLs for that. That's very normal, that what you're gonna see. And so in here to save, and also you have to give the environment, whether the environment gonna be a testnet or mainnet, or it's gonna be a sandbox net. And here we're gonna be mainnet, and also the default provider you can choose whether that's gonna be Dapper self-custody, Lyrical, or Blocto. So in here, since Dapper self-custody is not in the not public yet, so we might use Lyrical default. And the app names is going to be Master Maker app. Here saving a bit time, I just going to be copy paste what did we have before and into here, but that's just the same ideas. Only thing you might be mentioned, there are two optional fields. So one field is the is going to be account proof or configurations. And also the other field is going to be the Wallet Connect one. The Wallet Connect project IDs, you can register that on the Wallet Connect website, and you can create any project, and here's ID for you, and you copy and paste the ID in here. That's the how you do that. And once you have that, yeah, make sure if you're using account approval on that, please. And for the Wallet Connect configurations, if you're using Lilico or the Dapper self-custody, make sure you have configuration on that as well. And also for the URI schemas, that's also the configuration for this app that how you can navigate back. So you can do in the project and then URL types. Make sure the URL schemas was followed exactly the same as you configured in here. So once you do that, and then basically we do some like keywords replacement for this environment. Yeah, the Dapper self-custody shows up because that was for testnet only. And if you didn't see that, maybe you are in the wrong network. So yeah, make sure you are in the right network. And then once you logged in, and then there's one way that we have to we can check for what we have in here. And let me bring up my apps. Okay, so once we click on the connect button, if we click on Dapper self-custody, as you can see, that's one going to be jumping us to the wallet, and then you can make the connections. Once you make the connection, it's going to jump you back. And if that's one doesn't jump you back, make sure the URL schema that you configured was right. And here it doesn't make anything because we haven't listened to that changes yet. So the triggering on that is this is in this app pages. So we have like logins on that. So in here we have to add in a listeners. So once the FCL's current user is not nil, basically we will identify user who was logged in, and then basically we have to add in the similar listener for 2 pages. First is welcome page, and the second one is main tab page. Main tab page, that's one also, you know, it's basically is checking. It shows you whether you have the user was being initialized or not. If he have been initialized, we can change in here. It's gonna be the minting part, right? And that's gonna be the minting part. So here we default is false. Okay, so let's run the app since we have made the changes in our here. So once the login, we should go navigate. We should change into other pages. And let's just run the app again and try it again. And yeah, that's the initialize what shows up. And so let's just try logging out and then click on the Dapper self-custody and click on connect, navigating back, and yeah, the page was changing. And then we're gonna jump into the second questions, like how that one was being identified. The user was being have this collection or not. And here we have to write in our functions in our end, and we called like check-in collection vault. So first of all, we have make sure the user was logged in. If no login, then we have to throw that out. And if the user is logged in, we'll get his address. And then basically what we're gonna do is like we're using FCL's query, and we have a number of cadence actually in this class, in how to initialize account, and how to maintain this NFT locally, how to generate the initializations, and how to check. So that's one that we're gonna do, like checking the initialization status. So we click on check, and we have passing the arguments. So we have to check the this cadence. So here we have passing address, and then we're returning a Boolean values. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna have a result, and that result have to be the Boolean values, and we have to try and wait until that was back. And here we are passing address, and that's the user address, and we have decoding that back to the Boolean values. And here we have to return, and if we want, we can make that a bit simpler. We can returning yeah, okay, result. Maybe you can print the result first. Result gonna be the checking also result. Okay, cool. So what's now is like once you use logins, we're gonna call these functions, and then let's see what's happened. And similar, what do we have? We have to um, navigate in here, and that was user being logged in already. So here we will have the result, which called false. So which means when we query on that, the user haven't been initialized yet. So and then how we do initializations, right? The initializations, since we have to making transactions to doing that, and making the initializations, what we can refer to is here. And seems like initialize this account, it doesn't require much. It only requirement is like this user have to be the signers. And usually what we do is, as what you see here is quite simple, is using FCL's mutate. And in this mutate, what you need to do is like you pass in your cadence, and that cadence is the monster makers the initialize account. And because we don't have any arguments in here, so we don't need to anything for that. And for the rest of the others, we have default value for on it. And once that one was done, we're gonna printing out the transaction ID for that. And let's try. Okay, let's click on this button. Once we click on this button, it's gonna navigate our back to the wallet side. And in this wallet, you can see the script is the one for the initialized initialized account. And when we click on confirm, it's gonna be navigate all back to the wallet. In the wallet side, we are printing the transaction ID for that. And what we can do is it has been come through. And what we can do is like we can check the transaction status in here. And as you can see, the transaction, that's the user's proposer, payers, and authorizers. And that's one is the one we just signed less than a minute ago. Okay, the user has been configured. So right now we can mint these NFTs. So minting NFTs is first we're gonna using very dummy versions. We're gonna embedding this minters private key directly into the app, and then we were minting the NFT to this user. So although it's not going to be a back practice, but I just want to show the basic idea on that. And then in the later sections, I'm going to talk about the advanced one, like how to make that more secure, because you don't want to share your minter private key like to every users. So that's not going to be the best practice. But in here, it's just general ideas like how to do that. So to doing that, actually, we have one functions called minting functions. Basically, for the minting functions, similar to what we have previously, we will have the users. We have the user actually signing, and we will have the minters sign transactions. We might don't need the user sign that because we're gonna just airdropping the NFT to this user's account. So we can take what we have in the minters on local these functions. And so in this function, as you can see, we all have the receivers, and then we have the configuration for this NFT as well. And that's just the 5 parameter we're gonna pass in through. And so in here, we are creating these private keys, and the private key actually is the one in here that we use. And also we wrap that as a signers, and we are passing this argument. Cool. And once we've done that, and then let's just making the actions on it. And that's gonna be the maker pages. The maker pages is the one that you can configure for these NFTs. Here, as you can see, we can change the background. You can change the head. You can change the tools. You can change the legs for that. Okay, so once you do that, and then we have one of the action called trigger. And this trigger actually was triggering for the buy actions. That buy action basically is have the was using calling this function here, but in our one we might using emit. this mint function actually is going to be, previously it's going to be a API calls, but in our cases, we make that a bit simpler. We're just going to be calling one of the function we just wrote, and we're just going to be printing out for the transaction IDs. And yeah, so basically that's going to be it. Okay, let's try that. Okay, so we're changing a bit on the on this monster, and we click on mint. So, and here is the transaction ID actually we got. So if we want, we can look up for the result, and that's gonna be success. So when we're going back to our monsters, and we can click on views, and that's the monster we just created. And also we haven't been told you like how to query this NFT list, and that's gonna be our next steps. So in our next steps, for creating this monster list, we will have the another cadence. The cadence was located in here, the NFT list. The NFT list basically you are passing address, and then it will give you this this list of monsters the user have. That's the basic idea that we are using. The NFT list is kind of simple as what we are using. So in here we are using queries. If you are not writing something to the chain like transactions, basically you are using the queries most suitable one. And make sure that when you're using the NFT list, when you do the decodings, we can decoding that back into the native one models. So in here we have native model for NFT models. Here have the name, descriptions, and image IDs, and the owners and everything. So and then that one was exactly matching with what we have in here. With what we have in here, we have the owners, resources IDs, and then other stuffs. Yeah, so make sure you're adding decoding function at the end, and they're gonna decoding you back to the native apps. And then later on, when we sort these functions, it's gonna be here. As you can see, we are printing out the monsters in the list. Here have the names, descriptions, and also the image on that. So if we look, if we browsing the images, yeah, that's the NFT we have. We just created, and yeah, so basically that's very quick ideas about like how to using this FCL to using queries and then mutate to signing in transactions. And so in next sections we're gonna follow the back practice, like how to move in the minter part like to our backend instead of everything in the front end. And yeah, thank you, thanks for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next sessions.